This is our presentation on propaganda as it relates to social media, politics in both parties, and the 9/11 truth movement. We have our two experts, Sydney and James. We are going to start with a very fun topic of politics, because everybody loves that.
So, from the politics, both sides, we're kind of talking about Trump, Homeland Security, and Department of Labor, along with ICE. So, with Trump himself on the Republican side, his assassination attempt created a huge wave of photos right after him raising his fist with his bloody ear. This was propaganda because he used this event and images that came with it to point fingers at the Democrats and empower his ego. He's a very famous person on social media, so he uses that as a platform to get propaganda out. He's also known for tweeting threats towards people with high power in other countries. After the Charlie Kirk assassination, Trump used the event to point fingers at the Democrats as well. Again, just like his own assassination attempt. Charlie Kirk's funeral and his wife got huge traction right after that event. So that was a big thing.
Didn't he get kicked off of Twitter at one point?
I believe so. And then Musk brought him back when Musk bought Twitter and changed it to X.
Yeah. Which no one calls it that. So, what about Homeland Security?
For Homeland Security?
Yeah.
About the recent social media post from the Department of Homeland Security. There's one post that stated, "A heritage to be proud of, a homeland worth defending." And that some people did feel like this wording was echoing nationalist rhetoric and could be interpreting, which aligned with white supremacy and language, even if that was not the stated intention. The phrase homeland in particular can carry strong historical and political connotations depending on what context is being said in. And with that, another post also stated that we'll have our home again, and this goes alongside the reference to ICE, where critics did argue that this language talked about the country and being invaded, and it kind of puts a picture of the immigration in combative and territorial terms, and that could come off very harsh. This kind of messaging can be powerful because it does appeal to the emotions of fear, protection, and then belonging to a certain side.
Yeah. Another big one is the whole ICE thing that's going on right now. One piece of propaganda that directly supports ICE is an image of Uncle Sam hanging up a "Help Your Country and Yourself" sign with ICE's digits right under it. Using Uncle Sam for this propaganda was to make people believe calling ICE is the right thing to do. There are many other pieces of ICE propaganda that say defend the homeland, with Trump and many other famous Republicans in the picture as well. The use of ICE is not only to scare people who are minorities, but to scare white Americans that minorities are the enemy. So,
yeah. I also feel like these political messages can influence public perception and how historical context can affect how slogans are received. So I thought that was huge use of propaganda in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. With all this stuff going on, propaganda is definitely being used a lot with the ICE thing, and yeah.
Do we have any images to show of what you mean by the ICE propaganda?
Yeah.
So we have that first one.
And that one's stating "remember who you are," and that could also be a pushed kind of meaning to the message of putting how people should be feeling about something, and installing that fear and remember who you are, remember what side, pushing a certain side on that.
Yeah, definitely.
What upsets me about that one in particular, the remember who you are, is that they leave it just vague enough to squeak by it could go in either direction. They're not actually taking a stance. It's like, hey, you should already know, what side you're supposed to be on.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like we were talking about earlier, the bottom right picture shows like they used once that happened, he used it as propaganda to like build his campaign really, and just kind of nuts.
Yeah, I remember the conspiracy theories at the time that because the assassin missed in the way that they did, and the fact that Trump, rather than trying to leave the area, decided to pause and make that gesture, that the whole thing was planned.
I could see how people could see that because who is thinking that? What's like whose first thought is to do that? So that was definitely something that I saw and is a big talk.
The reporting all foreign invaders with Uncle Sam is disgusting.
Yeah,
I
that picture.
think, yeah, I also think it's saying like help your country out and yourself is kind of putting a shame on like people who have come into the country and making it feel like this is how you need to feel. This is not right. Even if like people like don't agree with it, it's kind of making you feel you should agree with it.
Yeah, the inclusion of and yourself
Yeah.
sort of hits that emotional center of and me. Well, what's happening with me? Is something happening that I don't know about? Or are these people
Mhm.
doing something that I'm not aware of?
Yeah, it leaves question in people's heads that are looking at it
Yeah,
and maybe they didn't have before.
I would agree with that, yes. Sydney, why don't you tell me about the victims of ICE here?
Talking about the Democratic side, the victims of ICE, after the death of Renee Good, he was killed by the ICE agent, which was all over social medias. The Democratic Party uproared in like anger, and it caused a huge kind of like social media conflict of what side was right, who was talking, and like off just what we were seeing off the media. There's posts, posters, slogans spread against like to the public, and then Mark Ruffalo, who was like a famous actor in Hollywood, got like hate after wearing a "Be Good" pin in honor of her, which I think in like America we are told to have like our own speeches, so I don't. It was kind of shocking when people were coming out at him for wearing that pin just because maybe had a certain platform. And then Alex Preddy, who was another victim of ICE, was shot and killed just like Renee, and he was honored in social media posts and posters. And then these two people and many others who died are like symbolizing the anti-ICE movement, and they're kind of like the face of what is happening in like this girl world. And then the Democratic Party is conveying it. Liam, who was also a victim, he wasn't killed, but he's a little kid and he was actually kidnapped by ICE. And even if you watch the Super Bowl, they like showed him and like a little boy and kind of made it like a known thing because they knew so many people were being watched, so they wanted to put it on the platform, which is also a very big example of like propaganda and spreading it through the media. And it was kind of a picture of him like spread around of him with his backpack and being so scared, and it gave the Democratic side more evidence to state their case about ICE. So I thought that was like a huge turning point of like, look what it's doing. Like, you need to see fear it is causing in people and like the harm it is truly having.
Maybe this is a little bit too niche, but if you've ever seen those advertisements about those children in like cobalt mines, for example, where they'll be like, hey, like send us money because look at how scared these kids are, look how miserable these kids are, you need to boycott these companies, or I guess
Mm-hmm.
in this case, to keep the comparison simple, you need to be against ICE because look at what they did to this kid. James, what exactly is the No Kings protest?
Well, before the No Kings protest even started, several people posted on Instagram about their or about their local protests and when and where they would be.
This is for Trump, right?
Yes,
Okay.
this made the movement spread not just in Washington, but the whole country, from California to New York. Uh, During the protest itself, several pictures were posted online from professional photographers showing the growth of people in the streets, to people just posting a picture on their Instagram story. With these several pictures online, you can see people who stuck out and actually dressed up for the protest and make their statement. Some examples being the Statue of Liberty and Uncle Sam. After the protest, there was still some activity about it, whether that be people saying that it went well online, or people saying it was useless. This argument in itself clashed for a decent amount of time between the two political sides. So that was definitely a big split, and caused a lot of people protested, and there was a lot of that going on at the time.
So they were protesting the statement that Trump had made on Twitter at the time about basically being the king of America.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
People were in the streets, and definitely it was huge for sure.
So let's leave aside American politics for a minute, because we're not the only country that exists. Sydney, what do we know about international propaganda? Is there anything going on there?
Yeah, it's actually crazy that how common it is for this to be such a huge thing, and I feel like it's mostly just talked about in America, but we don't realize that it also does go internationally. And recently there's carnival floats in Germany that gained huge attention from the political imagery. One float that was seen was of President Donald Trump attempting to kiss the Statue of Liberty while she pulls away with cloth labeled MAGA covering her mouth. The symbolism in this shows that Trump and the MAGA movement are silencing or restricting the values of the Statue of Liberty traditionally, which represents like freedom, democracy, and like openness.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it here. It's
That's insane.
yeah,
Picture.
it really gets the point across.
Definitely.
Yeah. I also feel like this can be symbolism to other pictures that have gone out around him of like him kissing like women's cheeks and then kind of like shoving away, and just him having in like pictures like no respect in that aspect of like just being too pushy, you know?
I mean, she is called Lady Liberty. Are we really surprised?
Yeah. Okay, another float showed Trump shaking hands with Putin, with a wounded Ukraine man caught between them. And this image shows that the ongoing war in Ukraine, and it does imply criticism of Trump's stance towards Russia. This is by placing a bleeding Ukraine figure between the two leaders. And the float is showing that the political alliances could have harmful like sequences with Ukraine. And then Germany, especially during the carnival, has become now known for using exaggerated satire and like symbolism in parade floats to comment on like global politics, which in a way is kind of smart on their part because it is such a huge thing and they know it will get spread around. So I feel like they're playing it in a smart like game. Well, some of them, like some people do view them as satire or artistic expressions. Others do see it as propaganda because they promote like a clear political perspective, which I agree with. They are like clearly showing what is going on, but in a satire way.
Yeah, and I find it so interesting that it's Germany that's doing this of all countries, considering Germany's history. The fact that they're the ones taking a stance. I don't know if you two are aware, but since World War II, Germany has been very staunchly, we're staying out of all politics. Mm-hmm. Like, we burned our bridges. But they've been taking in Ukrainian refugees. They take in any and all refugees basically as, reparations to the the horrors that their government committed in World War II.
Yeah.
So things have to be pretty bad for them to take a stance.
No,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
So moving along from politics into something I think that's more, I think in some ways is more controversial. We're going to talk about the 9/11 truth movement. So if you don't know, 9/11 was a pretty horrible tragedy. It's an event that led to widespread changes in the way that the U.S. government functions. Which included the founding of the Department of Homeland Security. It caused crazy changes to our daily lives, and as I think the worst, second worst, I guess, because Pearl Harbor, worst attack on American soil. It's kind of no surprise that it spawned its own group of so-called truth seekers who claim to know the real story of what happened. They call themselves, and I really wish I was kidding, the 9/11 Truth Movement, which is just the lamest name they could have picked. They are a fringe group that has been spreading propaganda and just so much noise in the 25 years since. They've really never quieted down in that entire time. And we could go on and on about the endless piles of theories that this group spills out about, but I think we're just going to go over 3 of the favorites here.
Yeah, we can start. We have the theory about Flight 93.
So, Flight 93, that was the flight where the passengers took the plane back from the hijackers and crashed it into a Pennsylvania field, right?
Yeah, there are a few theories about Flight 93, but one one that is most harmful, in my opinion, is the theory that the flight was never really hijacked at all. Essentially, the passengers were said to have found out that the plane was part of the government's plot to have an excuse to use full military powers to the Middle East to get oil. According to the theory, there were no hijackers, or that the guys who pretended to hijack the plane were all patsies to take the fall for the attacks.
Okay, that's pretty far-fetched already.
Well, the theory said that when the passengers found out about the plot, the U.S. government sent a fighter jet to fire a heat-seeking missile to shoot the plane down over a field in Pennsylvania.
What's the evidence for this?
They claim that the crash site was wrong for what you would expect from the kind of crash Flight 93 should have been. They say that the main body of the plane's engine landed several miles away from the rest of the wreckage. On top of that, they say that the damage to the engine didn't match what you would get from a crash. They looked at that it looked like what a heat-seeking missile would do.
Okay, so they thought that not only was 9/11 a false flag attack, but that the government shot down a friendly plane to keep the plot covered up. That's really unsettling. Sydney, do you have anything to say about this? Because this is crazy.
I actually have some damning counter evidence. The crash site was not out of the ordinary for a crash of this type at all, nor was the engine farther away than it should have been either. The main engine was actually not even several miles away, as these conspiracy theorists would have you believing, but it was only 200 yards away, which is an insane difference. Look at this diagram.
Oh, that's this one, right?
Yeah, correct. So in that, you could see the position of the engine relative to the rest of the debris. Its position matches the angle and velocity of the crash perfectly. Even the airline accident expert Michael K. Hines agrees with this assertion. If the plane had been blown up by a missile, the debris would have fallen and been much more spread out and way more chaotic. So that doesn't even line up. And then there's no evidence to even support this wild claim made by this movement.
All right.
I have another one for you guys. The movement also claims that the Pentagon wasn't actually hit by a plane, but by a U.S. aligned cruise missile.
Why did these guys have such a fascination with missiles?
Theory goes that a plane wasn't struck. What struck the Pentagon, but it was a cruise missile. They say that there is no longer distinct field of debris, and that the holes and damage created by the crash are too small to have been made by a Boeing 757.
Okay, wait. How big is this Boeing 757?
I believe it's around 12 feet.
Okay.
They go on to claim that the the footage clearly shows a missile outline rather than the outline of a Boeing 757. They say the original footage was edited with CGI and released by the FBI after the fact.
What about the phone calls from the plane? Actually, both planes, both Flight 93 and this one.
They were voice morphing technology, apparently.
I guess that's sort of compelling. Sydney?
All right, here's the thing. I have the actual footage from the Pentagon's own security cameras.
Okay.
It's
Oh,
Oh, wow.
okay.
See, you could see the plane impacting.
You can see something impacting the Pentagon, but you can't clearly see whether or not it's a plane or a missile.
I mean, he does have a point there, though, Sydney.
Okay, well, check out these photos from the aftermath then.
Okay. Okay. Oh.
Would a
Oh, wow, yeah.
would a cruise missile leave any trace of itself, much less what is very clear plane debris? Also, a cruise missile would have caused as a much different explosion than what we see here. What we can see here is very plainly a shed of the fuselage of the plane, created when it's impacted the concrete and the masonry of the structure.
All right, that's some compelling evidence.
Okay, so who made all this up? And why?
Like I said before, this is from the 9/11 Truth Movement. They have members all over the world, and they exist to prove their truth or what they believe really happened that day.
They aren't seen around so much on the mainstream internet these days, are they?
No, not much. They used to do big rallies and protests, but now they mainly exist in small blogs, sending memes and ideas with each other online. You occasionally come across some stuff on Twitter, but that's usually when they have something to add a modern political discussion.
Yeah, I mean, you can see these protests. Just this one's pretty low key, but I mean, that's a lot of people all marching with flags like that. They have t-shirts. They have matching t-shirts.
That's crazy.
What's their target audience? Like, who do they want to see their stuff? Like, who do they want to see the stuff they say?
Everyone really.
Okay, see, here's where I start to have an issue. They claim they want to spread their message, but they do it in such harmful ways.
All right, I agree with that.
Seriously? You've been kind of on their side the whole time.
I don't agree with them. The theories are just interesting. My point is they use emotional guerrilla tactics to spread their messages. They pry upon the grief and emotion from that day and turn it around onto the government.
Not only that, but the proof they hold so dear is easily proven to be false, yet they cling to it. They use the word truth in the name of their movement, but there's nothing truthful even about them.
They also do not understand the mechanics of their claims. Like with the Pentagon strike, anyone with the cursory knowledge of the cruise missile work, like like with a quick Google search, one could determine that it couldn't be a cruise missile that hit the Pentagon.
I don't mean to interrupt you while you're on a roll, but aren't they referred to as a lunatic fringe group?
They are, yes. I agree with that assessment.
I don't know about lunatic. That feels like an irresponsible word to use. I'd call them determined and delusional, but I don't think they're lunatics.
I mean, they do know how to spread their message. I think everyone born like post 2002 has at least heard of the jet fuel can't melt steel beams meme.
Yeah, it's a classic. It's one of their messages that people have adopted, not for the truth in it, but for the memorability and humor.
The US government certainly doesn't take them seriously. They've never officially responded to the movement, but they address what really happened in the 9/11 Commission report. Um, they won't even dignify these claims with a response, which the movement takes as some kind of gotcha moment.
So weird. So before we wrap up and move on, what would you guys say this movement achieves, if anything, and like what are the effects of what they achieve?
Um, I'd say that this movement doesn't achieve what it is set out to do. Instead of spreading the truth, they have been branded as a cult of lunatics and tinfoil hat wearing weirdos. They went backwards instead of forwards.
Yeah, and on top of that, their adherence to their theories, despite clear evidence to the contrary, they they harm the memory of the victims and the surviving family members. It is downright insulting, especially in the case of Flight 93, where many people gave their lives to save countless others. It is unacceptable.
Okay, on that note, why don't we move to the last segment? Okay, so the last topic we're going to look at is social media as a form of modern propaganda. I guess to start off, why is social media such an important space for understanding propaganda these days?
Social media has completely changed how propaganda works. In the past, propaganda usually came from governments or large organizations and was distributed through mass media like television or newspapers. Now almost anyone can create content and potentially reach a huge audience. But the bigger shift is that algorithms control what people see. These platforms are designed to maximize engagement, likes, shares, comments, and watch time. That means that the content that spreads the most isn't necessarily the most accurate. It's the content that gets the strongest emotional reaction.
And that's what makes social media such a powerful propaganda environment. The system itself does reward emotional, dramatic, and even controversial content. Even if there's no one that's intentionally trying to spread propaganda, the structure of the platform helps those kind of messages travel farther and farther and farther and faster, which is why things do spread like wildfire.
So essentially the algorithm feeds into itself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So who exactly is creating propaganda on social media?
Uh, One of the challenges is that the source isn't always clear. Social media propaganda can come from political groups, influencers, activist networks, anonymous accounts, or even regular users who are just sharing what they saw. Because content gets reposted so many times, the original source often disappears. That makes it harder for people to evaluate credibility.
Yeah, and there are different motivations behind it. Some people are trying to influence political opinions, And then there's others who are trying to build a following or even just try to make some money off engagement. And in some cases, coordinated networks, sometimes even foreign actors, are intentionally trying to shape public opinion and increase the division within.
Okay, so let's talk about the algorithms. How do they like contribute to the spread of propaganda?
Social media platforms track users' behavior, like what you click on, what you like, how long you watch something. Then they show you more content that's similar. This creates a feedback loop, and the more you engage with a certain type of content, the more you're likely to see it. Over time, your feed becomes highly personalized.
That's interesting. The problem is that emotionally intense content tends to perform better. So posts that make people angry, scared, and outraged usually get more engagement, which is crazy because you would think you wouldn't want to be watching that stuff, but that's what people feed off of. And since the algorithm prioritizes engagement, it ends up amplifying those emotional messages. So even if the platforms aren't intentionally promoting propaganda, the system rewards the types of content that propaganda does feed off of.
I think I've seen that sort of thing on YouTube where rather than just letting somebody like they're like, "Oh, boycott this creator or that creator." And that gets up and ends up getting spread around, and rather than people realizing, "Oh, that person's a bad person," they end up watching the person who's being boycotted stuff to like put comments that say, "Hey, this person did this, boycott that person." But the algorithm doesn't understand that. So all it sees is, "Oh, promote this person's videos because they're getting comments and people are watching it."
Yeah.
What about propaganda techniques that work well on social media?
I'd say one of the biggest is emotional appeals. Content that triggers anger, fear, or shock is more likely to be shared quickly without much critical thinking. Another technique is us versus them framing. Many posts divide the world in two sides: good versus bad, citizens versus elites, or the political group versus another. That kind of framing strengthens group identity and increases popularization.
Repetition is
Yeah.
also very important. When people see the same claim over and over in their feed, it starts to feel familiar to them. And psychologically, familiarity increases perceived truth. So, and then this is called the illusory truth effect. Also, adding to that, another thing we see a lot is simplification. When there's a complex political or social issue, it gets turned into memes, short clips, or one sentence claims, which could be just eye catching, and then people will follow along easier. Those formats spread easily, but they remove context and nuance.
So with the illusory truth effect, basically, it's kind of like if I sat here for if I managed to trap you here for over 3 hours and repeatedly told you that 6 plus 3 is 12, and I wasn't gonna let you leave till you were convinced that 6 plus 3 was 12, just through the repetition of it, you might go home and think, "Oh, 6 plus 3 is 12."
Yeah,
It's not true, but your brain tricks you into thinking
because
it
you
is.
see it enough that, okay, it must be true.
Yeah. So I've seen a lot about filter bubbles and echo chambers. How do those connect to the propaganda?
Um, Filter bubbles can happen because of algorithms show users content similar to what they already engage with. Over time, people see fewer opposing viewpoints, so they'll just get stuck seeing what they see all the time, and they won't be able to see other things.
Okay.
That creates echo chambers where the same ideas are repeated and reinforced when everyone in your feed seems to agree. So those ideas then start to feel widely accepted and more credible. And then from a propaganda perspective, this is powerful because the message isn't being challenged, it's constantly being confirmed, which leaves no question.
Oh, that's horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it's nice for something like, hey, don't traumatize your kids, but like for something like thinking back to COVID and the sorry to use this word, but the idiots who were sitting there and listening to the things they heard on social media, but like injecting bleach into your veins and all of those things. And actually, the better one would be that the vaccine has microchips in it. Well, we know that's not
Yeah.
true, but people saw it enough times that
Yeah, that's and that ends up being all they see, and they see more of that, and kind of goes back to just if you hear something enough, you'll start believing it.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Exactly.
So does environment actually push people towards the more extreme views in that case? How does
It
environment play in?
it definitely can. Content that is more extreme or controversial often gets stronger reactions, which leads to higher engagement. That signals the algorithm to promote it more widely, for sure.
Yeah, and then over time, users may even be exposed to increasingly intense content as the platform recommends similar materials. And then this can lead to sometimes described as which is described as a radicalization pathway, where exposure gradually shifts someone's beliefs in a more extreme direction than it's even.
Oh, yeah, like back in like the early to late 2010s when YouTubers were just straight up joining ISIS as a thing.
Yeah, that was
That was
insane.
happening.
Yeah. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that was scary.
Yeah, okay, so all of that raises massive ethical questions. Who's supposed to be responsible when harmful and misleading content spreads? Because sure, you can blame the person who initially posted the video, but they have no control what happens after. So what do you guys think?
Um, yeah, responsibility exists at multiple levels. Content creators are responsible for what they
Mm.
post. Users are also users also play a role when they share information without verifying it as well. So there's definitely a lot of levels to that, and
Yeah. I also
yeah,
feel like when you know you have such a huge fan base and you're putting something that isn't doesn't have much research behind it or that you know what you're doing in that aspect, and I think it's very selfish if they are just doing it for views, because at the end of the day it could ruin someone's life or perspective on something.
So just to wrap up, what's the most important thing that people should understand about social media propaganda?
modern propaganda isn't just about persuasive messages. It's about systems that reward certain kinds of content.
Yeah, the content that spreads the fastest is usually the content that triggers strong emotions, encourages immediate reaction. So, something that is going on right now is with Tom Brady and Alex Earl, and he's a well-known football player, and she's a well-known influencer on the girls' side. So, them being seen together, and then nothing has been confirmed of their relationship, has made people just keep spreading the news and spreading the news of why she broke up with another famous guy to go after, and then the age gap behind that is promoting strong emotions to people, and they're craving it, they want answers, they're trying to figure it out. So just building and building, but it's also building how popular Tom Brady is and Alex are. So that's why media literacy is so important, and slowing down, checking resources, and thinking critically before sharing is essential, because it can just be a whole plan of popularity just to get emotions out of people, but then it also can be false advertising, and they could have just been having a conversation. Who knows?
Yeah, not to hop the gossip train, but isn't Tom Brady married?
He was, but he got divorced, and now people are trying to say maybe he got a divorce because of that, or he's just into younger girls. His wife was too old.
Some people have too much
No,
free
they
time.
do. They definitely do. But it's a huge thing, and it's boosting them, and it's bringing Tom Brady back into the talk, which is important for them, the famous people.
I
Yeah.
guess. Do you have any other specific examples for this, or is Tom Brady really the best kind of thing of the not researching your stuff,
Um,
of not researching before spreading?
I would just say, let's think. Not researching. I feel like right now that is the best thing I have because that is being so talked about. Like I see it on my page daily, and it's been going on for a decent while. There's not really anything else that's being brought up except for like, okay, we could even use an example of like Eilish wearing baggy clothes because she doesn't want to show her body until like 18, but like I don't think she's ever come out and said that or whatever, or like until she was like 20 or ready, and then people are making assumptions that because she's showing off now she's ready to be truly into like the famous world. Like she's never come out and specifically said it, so who knows if it's even true.
Yeah, that's a good example. There's no way of knowing, and yet people are going to claim to know anyways.
Yes.
Does
Um,
anyone else have any final thoughts?
No, I think we've basically wrapped up everything.
All right.
yeah, I think that's it.
It's a scary world nowadays.
It's very scary.
Definitely.
And it's scary that people are so willing to like just add on to things that they don't know just to get popularity out of it.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's terrifying that just all the fear mongering, both on a, you know, like a news level, particularly in America, and then you read newspapers from the UK or from Germany, and it's like, oh, never mind, this was not as huge a deal as the American news cycle made it
Yeah.
seem.
Definitely. Well, definitely social media also just blows things up. No matter how small it
Yeah.
is, things just get widely spread, and it it can definitely cause problems, and definitely causes a separation between a lot of people, and with people with different viewpoints.
And also, I
for
feel like a
sure.
good example was like the skinny trend, where like everyone got super, super, super thin, and it was like a trend for such a while. Now it's like just dead. And like same thing with like how much protein. I feel like protein like spiked up. Like it was never talked about, and now people are like, I feel more pressured to eat protein in my adult age than like if I was drinking at 16, like that kind of stuff. And I feel like
Yeah, no, fiber too. It's like, oh, you gotta,
yeah,
every meal must have protein. Every meal must have fiber. It's not a snack if you don't have both of those
yeah,
things. And it's, we need those things, but it doesn't have to be at every meal. Like,
no, I agree.
and how quick social media is to blow things up and make a huge deal out of them and then immediately forget about them a few days later like it never
Yeah, or like
happened.
something better came up, so that's gonna be now talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like on social media too, with stuff just will blow up for a little bit, and then as soon as something else happens, that will take over, and I people forget about other stuff that happens, and even stuff that like that's important. Sometimes like just like cover ups and stuff like that, which is definitely a big thing nowadays.
Yeah. And it's people make psyop jokes, but it's been a thing since forever. It's a very real phenomenon. I don't think it happens as often as people claim it does, but it's a very real
Yeah,
phenomenon.
Absolutely.
for sure.
But yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
everything.
I think we're good.
Yeah.
It was lovely having you guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
Of
you.
course.